I don't really know what to say anymore. I don't. When's the next goal going to come from? Let alone the next win. The most polite way I could describe that performance, especially the second half, was nothing short of embarrassing. Embarrassing. And I'll say this. I'll say this before I say anything else. Do not, and I repeat, do not blame the manager. Because Andy Butler put out the best 11 he could. You've got to look at the players now. Look at the players that were the worst performers today. Reece James, Brad Halliday, to some extent, you could probably say Scott Robertson, Fajiri Okunabiri. What do those specific players specifically have in common? They're either loanees that go back to their clubs at the end of the season, or they're out of contract in the summer and could walk away for free. What's going on at this football club? Someone from the ownership, the chairman, someone at the club, please, politely, please message me and tell me what your plans are for this club. I'm not questioning the ambition of the board. That's not what I'm doing, because I'm not that kind of person to do that. People can say what they want on social media. I'm not going to question the board's ambition. But someone at the ownership of the club, someone higher up at the club, you know, my socials are in the description of this video. Please message me at some point privately and tell me what your long-term plans are. I'm not going to expose them publicly or anything like that. Just tell me what your plans are for this club so I can feel just a little bit more assured of where we're going as a football club. Because if it's anything like what I've seen on the pitch today, what's going to happen to this football club? Are we going to play League 2 in a couple of years again? Are we going to get relegated again in a couple of years' time? Can we still get playoffs? Mathematically, yes. But if because we've lost now, if other teams win, we could go down to 11th. 11th. And we've got Bristol Rovers on Monday. Am I confident about that now? For the first time ever, as a Rovers fan, you're probably going to see me predicting nothing like a win. I think when it comes to the preview for Bristol Rovers tomorrow, you might see me predict a draw or a loss. Because what are we actually doing? Bristol Rovers showed so many positives in their match against Sunderland. And if they get some kind of result against Ipswich, or they show positives but lose to Ipswich today, we could be done. We could be done out here. Because you look at teams like Blackpool, like Oxford, like Portsmouth, like MK Dons, like Ipswich to some extent. They look like they could score, and we can't. And, you know, I think fans put it best. It's, you know, some fans said on social media, it's going to go the same way as it went 2 years ago when McCann walked out and Moore came in. He had only a few contracted players. The rest of the squad was nowhere. Loanees walked back. People left for free. People rejected contracts. And we're going to be left rebuilding the squad again. Some people on that pitch didn't look like they want to play today. And that doesn't include Taylor Richards, because Taylor Richards in the second half when he came on was actually one of the only players that looked like he could do something. He was driving forward, Anderson was driving forward, Jones wanted to play it forward, Coppinger looked like could have done something. Last 10 minutes Coppinger was, you know, awful. But for the rest of the game he was great. He was looking to do stuff. Cameron John, as soon as he came on, he was taking it round his own keeper. And he was playing as a centre-back. One moment, but we got away with it. Lakilo can't beat the first man on when he's taking a corner. Someone else needs to step into taking a corner. The one thing I would say Butler could be at fault for is if he comes out after that game and say, we showed some positive signs, because there were spells, like short spells, But for the rest of the second half, at least, we were scrappy. Very end-to-end. Ben Amos hardly got tested. I don't know what more I can say. I'm trying to do this in a polite way. I'm not going to slag off the players. I'm not that kind of person to do that. I'm not. But there's nothing else I can say apart from that performance was pathetic and embarrassing. The players will know that. And the players need to work in training. I'm not hearing all the excuses of, oh, we've got injuries, oh, we've had only a few days to rest, oh, we've had, this many games to play in this many months. So, players should still play for the badge on the shirt. But right now it doesn't look like it. And if we're not careful, we could end up finishing mid-table if the gap starts to open up. Because like I said, if other teams win today at their 3 o'clock kickoffs, we go down to 11th. And then where will we be? When's the next win going to come from? We've got Bristol Rovers coming up on Monday. We've still got to play Burton, Shrewsbury, Accrington, Fleetwood, Peterborough twice, Rochdale and Blackpool. Apart from maybe Rochdale and possibly Bristol Rovers on Monday, where's the next win going to come from? I don't know. But we need to shape up big time. So let's go through these player ratings. Starting off with the substitutes. Lakilo, 5. That's been generous. Corners barely beat the first man. Didn't look like he could do anything. 5. John, 5. Just alright. Had a half chance later on in the second half, but apart from that, nothing much. Richards, gonna give him a 6. At least he was trying. At least he was trying to put the ball forward. Well done, Taylor Richards. You listened to my advice from the previous game. You looked like you wanted to play for the shirt on the day when you came on. Does he deserve a start? Probably, after that performance. But it's because we've also got no other option. Greaves, 6. I think, he could have done something with more time. That's one thing I will criticise Butler on. That Greaves substitution with Smith looking tired, that should have been made 10 minutes before it happened. And don't forget, we were given 7 minutes injury time. We looked like we couldn't, there was times in that game where we couldn't defend a pack of Wotsits from a swarm of hungry wasps or cows or whatever eat Wotsits. There were spells where we could not defend. It was that one defensive mistake. First half, apart from that defensive mistake, we looked like we could have done something. Then second half, we came out looking like we didn't want to score. Greaves, with an extra 10 minutes, could have done something to that midfield, given it some physicality, pushed the ball up. But he wasn't given the time to do it, and that's one thing I will criticise Butler on, not making that substitution a lot sooner. But for Greaves, I want to see him start now. I want to see him playing in that starting lineup. And then we're going to the starting 11 now. And by the way, these ratings are generous. They're just overall from the first and second half. They're just generous. 'Cause trust me, I think based on just the second half, they'd be a lot lower. Jones, I'm going to give him a 6. He was alright. The goal wasn't his fault. It was Anderson missing out on the header battle. He had a problem with Stockley all game before he came off for Chooks and Ike. I think that's how it's pronounced. But Anderson had a big battle with Stockley all throughout that game, for most of that game anyway. But Jones, apart from the goal that was unfortunate to go in for his part, it was basically James's mistake. He got out-muscled by a 17-year-old Chelsea loanee, Ian Matson. That's how a loanee plays. But James got out-muscled and that's it. But Jones, apart from that, didn't have much to test him from the Charlton attack, to be honest. It was very end-to-end in the second half, but he wasn't the worst performer out there. He was actually one of the better performers, and I think Jones is a young, up-and-coming player we need to build this team around. Back 4, Halliday, 4. 4. He came forward a few times, but that's about it. What more did Halliday do? Wright, 6. He's unfortunate to go off with what looks like a head injury, possibly a concussion. We don't know for sure yet. That's just made our problems a lot worse, hasn't it? But I've got a feeling that John will probably start at centre-back in the next game just to rest Joe Wright with the concussion protocol. But, yeah, it was just alright. Anderson, 6 again, just alright. Reece James, 5. Got out-muscled for the first goal. Didn't do much after that. Tried to get involved, but nothing much. Okenabiri, we're going to go into the wings first. Okenabiri, 5. Again, just didn't look good. Not a winger in my opinion. I know I said in the past he should play on the wings. He's a wide forward, but yeah, if Okenabiri's not going to put in good performances up front and he's not going to put in good performances on the wing, does he have a future? And that's not being harsh or anything like that. That's just being brutally heartfelt honest. If he can't put in decent performances consistently on the striker position or the wing position, I think fans on social media are even looking at that saying we can look at getting better players than Fajiri Okenabiri, but I don't want that to be the case for him, because I know that Fajiri Okenabiri is a wonderful attacking player on his best day. I know he can get that kind of talent out of him. He's just not delivering it at the minute. So we need to get him back on form, man. I want to see Bogle and Okenabiri playing up front together. That's what I want to see. Opposite wing, Coppinger, give him a 6. Like I said, these ratings are generous. Coppinger 6. On the second half, it would have been a 5 only, but on the first half performance, he actually looked like he was trying and doing some stuff. Last 10 minutes of the second half was awful, but Coppinger was actually trying some stuff, so 6 overall. Midfield, probably give 6s to Smith and Bostock. Smith, fair play to him, tried. Bostock, fair play, tried at times. Robertson, 5, didn't look up for it. Was he even playing today, in my opinion? No idea. And then Bogle, 5, got in the right areas and just didn't have the creative finish. And I think Charlton were looking at that saying, I'm glad we got rid of Omar Bogle, because he wasn't finishing for us and he's not finishing for them anymore. So... but I know we can get that player out of Omar Bogle. I just want to see him played the right way. With Okenabiri up front with him, I think we can build a partnership with those two. So, I don't know, man. It's not looking good, to be honest. A load of people, just looking at that, saying, I don't know, man. I'm looking at the social media reaction now. Someone's just tagged me in a post and said he's not saying it's easy. He thinks it was wrong to give it to Andy Butler to the end of the season. He'd like to see Andy Butler stay in some capacity and learn the job. He thinks he'd rather have Stocky than Wellens. I'm looking at some other social media reaction, and I'm glad actually that I'm looking at social media for people's reaction to this. Obviously, I'm trying to keep it family friendly, so I'm not going to say anything that's rude or anything like that. Here we go. One fan's put, Andy Butler has been in the job for 1 month, had no transfer window, and is doing his best. Sure, results are disappointing, but have some respect for him. Considering he played 200 plus times for Donny, he deserves better than silly squawking from the mugs who wanted him gone already. I agree with that. I agree with that tweet. I agree with. I don't want to say your name because of privacy reasons, but shout out to you. You know who you are if you watch this. I agree with you. He's not been given the right squad. It's not Butler's squad. It's inheriting more squad that do not look like they want to play for Andy Butler at the minute. They might say they want to, but on the pitch they're not looking like they are wanting to. So we need to learn that. Other reaction here. Some people saying as if Adkins was out of a job when Moore left. Bet we didn't even look at him. If things don't change tonight, this is how the last 10 go. And they predicted what the last 10 he thinks will go. He thinks Bristol will draw, Wigan will win, Burton, Shrewsbury, Accrington, Fleetwood, Peterborough loss, Rochdale draw, Blackpool loss, Peterborough loss. And you know what? I think, we'll end up finishing quite low if we have that kind of thing. Here we go. Someone else put online, we all love Andy Butler and I hope he is with the club for many years, but it feels like he's out of his depth at the moment or not getting the right support. It was a gamble, but it hasn't worked up to now and the board have a big decision to make. A new manager needs to be in place by the end of May with a clear idea of what they want going forward. The club needs to act now, go after a preferred candidate and get it sorted. Big rebuild on again this summer. And someone else has said this sort of performance you'd expect from a team well held in mid-table with one eye on the beach and only 2 games left to play. Not one with serious playoff aspirations. That was painful to watch. Another person says, how on earth did anyone think Bogle could play football? 8 clubs had a go and it's a big fail in every case. I see people having a go at Bogle, but he wasn't the worst performer still. Let's be perfectly honest here. Someone says, I've stayed out of the Donny Rovers debate up to now, but those of you shouting Andy Butler needs to be sacked or resign, give your heads a wobble. I agree with that. I think Butler's not been given the right squad. He needs to be given time. But fans will not give him time. You know it's a results-based business where if you don't get the right results instantly, you're going to be out. So it's a modern results-based business. So some fans won't agree with that because it's a results instant or you're out business right now in the modern world of football. So some fans won't agree with that. What was that? Even forgetting the latest sloppy defensive goal conceded, we just trotted around like we didn't care. I'm sure that isn't the case, but why are we so slow, so lacking in ideas? These players can't all suddenly be rubbish. What has gone wrong? Says someone else. And someone replied, there's only one common denominator. I think I know what he means by that. I think when he says there's only one common denominator, I mean, if you're watching this and you tweeted that, reply to that tweet, comment down below if I'm wrong about this. But I think what he means by there's only one common denominator, I think he's talking about the owners. I think he's talking about the club, like the chairman and the ownership of the club. Which, to be honest, I'm not even putting into doubt the ownership at the minute because they've kept us afloat. They're keeping us going as a football club. I know they've got the ambitions to try and make this club better, but we need to give them time, And I think this rebuild, maybe we have to fall flat in our face to get back up and finish the race. Maybe we need to have these, maybe this sort of form and going into League One again next season is probably a blessing in disguise because maybe we'll go into a rebuild in the summer and it's a rebuild that could take us so far up the leagues. Every negative needs a positive, so I think people just need to look at that, in my opinion. Someone said at no stage did Donny look like the scoring, and thanks Darren Moore for leaving the presence of Bogle. How on earth did he convince anyone he can play? We'll struggle to play in Doncaster Sunday League side. That's a bit harsh on Bogle, to be honest. Not Omar Bogle having another stinker with 0 goal threat for an easy win for admin's tricky Reds. A lot of people not reacting well to this. A lot of people. Some people saying Butler out, Wellens in, nothing personal but Butts out, getting no more of my money until you actually employ a manager, Butler out. Some people say maybe a nice fell, but he's not a manager. Plenty of managers available if the club ambitious enough. Again, questioning the ambitions of the club. It's not a great atmosphere at the minute at the club. It's not a great atmosphere at all. It's just, it does not feel right. It doesn't feel right at all. And I'm not going to question the ambition of the club. I know the club mean well. I know we're going in the right direction at some point. It had to go wrong to go right at some point. Look at the big clubs in the big leagues. It had to go wrong for them at some point to make it right. So, in my opinion, we need to give Butler more time to work with that squad because let's face it, he's only had a few games to work with the squad. Let's be perfectly honest here. We have to look at the players now. The players aren't performing for the manager right now, so they need to change that when it comes to Monday's game. We need to give Butler time as a manager because right now he's not being given the time by the fans. So in my personal opinion, we need to give him more time. We need to let him work with the players that he wants to work with. And the players that don't want to try, the players that don't want to put their all in for this club can go. That's the formula we're looking at here. Hopefully the contract situations get sorted because I think that's playing on the minds of the players a lot. Even though they said publicly that it's not, I think it secretly is, I think the contracts are playing on people's minds a bit. So, we'll see what happens, but, mate, I'm just dejected after that. I'm really dejected. It's another loss. We've got to go again. We need to get 3 points against Bristol Rovers, because if we get nothing more than a point out of a side that's in the bottom 4, or near the bottom 4, then I don't know what's going to happen this season, man. We could end up finishing mid-table if results go their way today for the 3 o'clock kickoffs, but I lay the blame on Darren Moore and the players for this. If we end up finishing mid-table and outside the playoff place by a few points, I lay the blame on Darren Moore and the players because Darren Moore left us in a promising position where he could have got us out the rot and gone for it. But the players need to take responsibility for this slip-up this second half of the season.